Welcome back. I'm Curtis Smith. Today we've got Joe Holdridge, Albuquerque Master Gardener, with us to help us answer a question that I got by email. Joe, I had a young lady apparently living in a college dormitory asking about growing cherry tomatoes in a dormitory window. What's your opinion on that one?
Curtis, I've grown lots of tomatoes. I've never grown cherry tomatoes in a dorm window, but I certainly think it's a possibility.
Yeah.
There's some things that you need to consider in growing any tomato in a container. Most of the guidelines say that the smaller cherry tomatoes can be grown in as small as 1-gallon containers. The larger tomatoes need at least a 5-gallon container. The larger the container, the better your tomatoes are going to grow, and the better chance you have.
More room for soil, moisture, fertilizer.
Moisture, you're going to water them less often. They're going to dry out slower. The other thing that you need to consider in growing container tomatoes in a dorm window is the amount of sun you have.
That's important.
Most of our tomatoes say grow in full sun, and now we know full sun in Albuquerque is too much.
New Mexico has lots of sunlight, so we can get away with defeating that a little bit, but we're still not going to grow tomatoes in a north window, even here.
That's right. We're not going to grow tomatoes in a north window, and we can't expect tomatoes to grow inside like they do outside either. I've tried it on several occasions. I've had minimal success.
You need to be diligent too, because you're going to get spider mites a lot quicker indoors.
You're going to get spider mites. They've got to have a lot of attention. They've got to be fed. They've got to be watered. You've got to have the right varieties. Now, to grow cherry tomatoes, I wouldn't try growing a lot of the big old indeterminate cherry tomatoes that I grow in my yard that get 8 feet tall. There's some smaller tomato varieties that could be used. There's a patio variety that's called a patio tomato. Small bushy tomato that grows in a smaller container. There's a pixie tomato that grows in a small container. There's some little Flora Golds, Micro Tom, Tiny Tim. Now, but those are ornamental tomatoes, and
they're still tomatoes. You get a taste of tomato there, but that's about it.
But you're not going to be very happy growing that type of tomato.
If you have room for the larger container, you can actually use these indeterminates. You may pinch them to keep them short, so as it starts to growing too tall, pinch the tip out.
All of the tomato varieties are starting to come in bush varieties too, and so this year I planted bush Goliath, and there's a bush early girl, and there's a bush almost everything.
These aren't even cherry, but they're going to be a smaller plant.
But they're a smaller plant.
So you get a fairly large tomato on a small plant.
Yes, sir. And I think that's the option I'm going to try in the future to see how those grow in containers. But I'm going to grow them in 15-gallon containers.
You want lots of room. So if you want to grow vegetables on your windowsill, go ahead and try it. There's all kinds of things you can do. There are some varieties which are better for growing indoors. Be sure you've got plenty of light for the type of plant you're growing. Be sure you watch for insects. Choose your soil carefully, but also be prepared to fertilize and to water adequately.